So what we're going to do is we're here to expose it, let people tell their story, and let everybody in the public see the horrors of the court system in Suffolk County, New York.
Long Island Backstory with Chief Correspondent Gary Jacobs.
Hi, I'm Gary Jacobs, and welcome to another edition of Long Island Backstory, where we film at the Altice Studio, formerly Cablevision, in Hop Hog, New York. Today is a continuation of a story that we did, although it seems like my guest didn't get the memo where you never dress better than the host. But anyway, we're going to still go forward today, and I was sort of in a casual mood because I spent the morning in Suffolk County Supreme Court, and I try to only wear a tie for funeral in court. So wearing it again tonight was a little bit much. But we did a show a couple months ago with Frank Vetro, and we're going to tell his story. And the show only ran once on TV so far, but it does go out on YouTube and various websites. And as of the airing of this show, just about 3,000 people have viewed it on YouTube. And the emails that just came flooding in were just unbelievable. A lot of interest, people saying, hey, everything this guy is saying is true. We've lived it. We've seen it. You know, keep fighting. And so I said, you know what, let's do a follow-up story. And today we have not only Frank Vetro, but we have his attorney with us, Phil Jusino, which that's sort of another story in itself because it's unusual. And Frank will tell us that how he got an attorney when he was really down and he was really at the bottom of the barrel and really with no hope. And yet Phil came along and decided to fight for what was right. And right. Phil, I give you a lot of credit for that because I know they call this an old boys club here, especially in Suffolk County, and you got to face these judges and district attorneys that were going after him. And the fact that you stuck up for him, you know, I really personally appreciate that you did that, and I know Frank did. So right. Thank you very much. So Frank, just give the viewers who haven't seen the first show, just give a quick 5 or 10 minutes about your case and what happened to you, as brief as you can.
Sure.
Because I know a lot happened.
So back in 2006, I was the middle school and high school principal of Hampton Bays secondary building. I was 32, 33, young guy. I was living the life, living the dream, and basically leaving my home. Leaving school to take my mother out to dinner for her birthday. I was arrested. They never told me what I was arrested for. Locked up, arraigned the next day, thrown in Riverhead Jail, and I was all over the media. They destroyed. I was labeled a terrorist by the police commissioner Richard Dormer, commissioner at the time. Pilloried in the press like you wouldn't believe. Labeled a predator. You know, doing things with students.
Let me just stop. I have Phil, as an attorney, is this legal? Because this is prejudicing everybody, and even if he gets found not guilty, the damage would be right. done. Is this legal or is this normal that they would go out and say things about him?
It happens every day. The media, they get a case, and they run with it. And they do it. Look at the Post on a regular basis. How they characterize somebody who's not even been convicted yet.
Right. Well,
and that's what happened to him.
It seems unconstitutional, though, to do that. Aren't they prejudiced? How could he ever get a fair case if it's already been tried in the media?
In certain types of cases, maybe not Frank's case, but let's say in a high-profile media case, a murder case, they can change the venue of the trial.
Right.
That can happen. But in most cases, the media can do whatever they want to do. And if Frank ever gets his day in court, which is our goal, and let's say he's exonerated, you're probably going to see maybe a little blurb, if he's lucky,
right.
on page 42B of Newsday.
But this isn't only the media. This was it the police department that was speaking out?
The police department?
District attorneys?
Yep.
We're all speaking out too. Is that common in a case like this on a local level?
It is common. I had a drug case not that long ago where the district attorney of Suffolk County himself gave a press conference
right.
and showed evidence that's going to be presented at trial of tattoos on my client's back, a license plate the person had. I don't think that's a good idea.
Right. But is it because it's a political thing? They're trying to make political hay and promote themselves?
I think so.
Why else would
they
do it? Why not just say, hey, I'm not saying anything and let the jury decide and let the system
That's right.
go through? It's got to be that they're looking to
in a sense, you could poison the jury pool by doing that. Because people watch whatever it was on, Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 12, whatever it's on. You're a potential juror. You're sitting there watching it. And then if you're called to the jury, you're going to say, wait a minute, I remember that case. That's the guy that had the tattoo on his back. Well, maybe that doesn't come out at trial.
Right.
But you know what? It came out in the media.
Right.
Maybe his license plate, the vanity plate, doesn't come out at trial. But it came out in the media. It hurts the client.
Right. But even if he gets found not guilty, the damage is to his rep. People still, I think, always say, well, if Spoda got out there and said these things, maybe he got a really good lawyer and he got off, but he probably still really did it.
That's right.
And
There's not much an attorney can do about that.
nothing you can do.
And you're never innocent. You're just not guilty.
That's
number
right.
one. You're never innocent.
There's no verdict that says innocent.
And one of the things that I'm going to say, Phil probably can't say this, even if he's thinking this, he can't say this. I'll say it. It's the Suffolk County playbook. Even if they're, just in case, it's like they hedge their bet. They're going to rip you apart in the media. You're going to be disowned by the world. I mean, the entire world turned its back on me. Lost my job as principal. Next thing you know, I'm out of my home. I'm in my car. Can't afford a qualified counsel now. So now they just stack the odds against you. You can't win, even if you're right.
Right.
That's their playbook. That's what they do. And I really believe that Suffolk County DA, more than ever, uses the media as a weapon against.
Let me say this. I do criminal work. I'm a former prosecutor. I was there in '89, '91. I was mainly under Caddison, and I'm in criminal court just about every day. And I have to say, most of the ADAs that I come across are honest, hardworking ADAs. They do their job. They're not part of the politics of the office. The politics is for the upper echelon of that office. So when you pick up the paper and you read about an ADA with a boat, or the DA doing something and promoting somebody that shouldn't have been a cop in the first place, that's not the line ADA.
Well, that's good to know. And
But
that's not good for you, but
right.
it is good to know.
But unfortunately, those are the ones that are running the office.
That's so they can move up because they're
Right.
political.
Right. And when you pick up the newspaper and you see about Brady violations, we talk about that all the time.
Right.
When the DA doesn't turn something over, and if you have a client and it's not a big murder case like the OJ case, you're not going to get the information from any other source. If the DA doesn't turn it over to you, that's it.
You can't hire. You don't have money to hire.
And you have
people
no
to,
idea if there's something out there that could exonerate your client.
Right. And this is not uncommon that this happens here.
It happens often, and it's not just to Suffolk. It happens in many different counties. Right. And unfortunately, to Frank's credit, he found out about a lot of the information he has not from the criminal trial, from the civil trial that came after. Right. If he didn't fight civilly for his rights, I wouldn't have probably 70% of what he produced for me.
Really? And you'd be dead. They would just be that would have been. You'd be
We'd have-
over. You have no case.
There'll be nothing to argue about.
Numerous Brady violations in my case, and destroyed evidence, admittedly.
But is there any repercussions, or just you wait? I mean, it's a lawsuit against the county. Is that criminal?
It's very difficult to bring a lawsuit against the district attorney's office. Virtually impossible. I'll give you an example. We had Marty Tankleff on our case, on our station for years, and he was exonerated. And that kind of case, you can bring a lawsuit because if you're exonerated and you did 17 and a half years, there's a real damage.
Right.
Frank's case is a little harder. He lost his career, but they might look at it and say, well, you only pled to violations. But that was enough to hurt his career because it should have been sealed and it wasn't.
The wrong disposition.
He didn't really know what he was pleading to at the time. The judge could have been a little more exact. But unfortunately,
my prior attorney, who for some strange reason I never name and I won't name, I don't know why. My prior attorney, not Phil, basically lied to me. We have the letterhead. Like he gave me the exact wrong disposition. He lied to me.
But when I see attorneys, sometimes the attorneys, and I see this more in family court because I haven't did the experience in criminal court, but they want to please the judge more than they want to please the client. They're part of this club, and they sort of do what the judge wants them to do.
See, I think most good attorneys don't see it that way. Look, we have to conduct ourselves in a diplomatic way with the court. But I don't go into court and say, all right, how am I going to please the judge today? I go in there saying, how am I going to fight for my client? I know I'm not the guy in the black robe, so I'm a cog in the machinery. That's what I say. Right. I fight for my client as best I can, but I'm not there to win friends in the trenches.
Right.
I know I have to deal with these judges on a regular basis, so there's an amount of diplomacy that you have to conduct yourself with. But I don't go in there saying, I want the judge to like me. I'm going in there, I'm representing Frank. I put things in that motion that I honestly believe in.
Right.
Someone might not like it, but that's not why I'm here.
But is it different in criminal than family court? Because the family court seems like they don't really follow the rules out here. They do what they want to do. With criminal court, it seems like at least what's before then they follow more. That's just my perspective.
That's an excellent question. There are a lot of similarities. One thing in a criminal court, if you don't like the way the judge is handling things, you ask for a jury.
Right.
You can get a jury trial.
Right.
Like Frank could have, if he wanted, had a jury trial.
And you picked a bench trial?
He pled.
No,
you pled,
yeah, I was in my car.
To violation.
Right.
So
Both my attorneys bailed out on me, and
right. In family court, when you have a conference with the court and the judge says, you know what, I'm leaning toward dad getting custody, or I'm leaning toward mom, there's not going to be a jury.
Right.
So unless something comes out, unless the judge keeps an open mind, and many do, you kind of know how it's going to go.
It's going to go right.
Like, first of all, in a criminal case, you don't have an attorney for the child,
right.
or a law guardian, they used to call them. So you just have the two attorneys doing battle and the jury decides. In family court, you have an attorney representing that child. So the attorney says, you know what, I think these kids belong with dad. The judge is hearing that. Right. But that's not determinative, but it is.
Right, but it is.
It carries a lot of weight.
Right. But I mean, one of the things you said that you took a plea, and
Yes.
I tell people all the time, and this is my advice is almost never to sign a stipulation and take a plea, because first of all, you're under duress when you're doing, which I think is funny. They allocute you. You're under stress. Everybody is. Right. You're talking about losing your kids. You're talking about losing his career, and of course you're under stress when you do it. But I tell people don't do it, because then you lose. It's much harder to go back and correct it if you realize you screwed up.
Right, but if you're going to take a plea, you have to.
Right, but I say let in his case, I don't know. Most guys say you're better off going to court, going to trial. Then at least you can appeal it. You have a chance of winning. This is my unless it's a great deal. Why take the plea?
Here's the thing. It's a good question, and people, and for anybody that doesn't believe in a forced or coerced plea, read Standing on Principle. I'm telling you right now, it happens all the time. So a lot of issues in my case, because I get asked that a lot. And it's a legit question. I'm not offended by that at all. They say, well, what do you mean you're innocent?
You're a smart guy. Why would you take a plea?
Yeah, exactly. Well, number one, I'm lost everything. I'm broke in my car, nothing. Both my attorney had two, which nobody even knows I had two. That's how little one of them did. Bailed out on me, and we have the letter in our motion about that one too, where I ran out of money to see you later. The disposition I was going to get, because I had nothing left, was that, and I had an agreement to go back to work. Actually, that's on record with Hampton Bays, and the disposition was take the disposition, sealed, and you go back to work.
A sealed violation.
Sealed violation, which automatically, that's the law. You go back to work, and I didn't want. Believe me, I didn't even want to do it. I'm like, I have nothing. I just need to earn some money.
You're at the bottom.
I had nothing left. Believe me, I didn't want to do it. So you put all these things together, and I'm like, I guess I should just cut my losses. I didn't want to do it, but I have nothing left in I have no more attorney either.
I think people don't understand that feeling of
believe me, I tried 3 years. I kept going to court. I should have pled, according to them, a year earlier, and I went to court about 5 or 6 more times, surprising the judge, saying, no, surprise, I'm not taking the plea. And I kept pushing it. I knew I would win. I'm telling you, I was going to win. Then I was like, all right, I'll just go back to work. Well, surprise, the letterhead and everything that went down didn't happen. It was the wrong disposition. And that's when I started to do things on my own. I found out everything that Phil was mentioning before, 70% of the case that we have now, where they withheld evidence. They knew who the real criminal was and did nothing about it. They didn't turn over sworn statements.
One of the things that I found pretty amazing, Frank came to me with information about the civil case where a federal magistrate actually said one of the complaining witnesses stole his identity. Now, I've been doing this 26 years, and I've never heard a federal magistrate say something like that, where the criminal court is not doing anything with it.
Right. The judges say
they never turned that over.
And we turned that information, and that's not even my opinion. That's a federal magistrate saying on the record in a ruling.
Right. And nothing was done.
And we put it in our papers, and so far nothing has resonated,
wow,
which is very surprising.
Not
to
only
me.
that, the complainant stole my identity and allegedly made phone calls and took my cell phone records, illegally. That's the whole case against me. Right. She admitted to doing it.
Right, and I'll give you an example along those lines. With the Brady, there was a tape recording.
Well, explain what the Brady rule is.
Brady material is the district attorney gets a file. They have to turn over to the defense attorney any material that would exculpate or could be used for cross-examination purposes. So it doesn't have to be a smoking gun means your guy didn't do it.
Right.
It could be something very minor. The problem is the prosecutor doesn't always know what the theory of the defense attorney is. The defense attorney's theory might be different. So the prosecutor might say, I have this information. I don't think it's going to help Jusino much because that doesn't mean his guy didn't do it. Right. I'll give you an example. Perfect example. Let's say there's a shooting and it's a Hispanic man that's charged. But the DA has proof or has information that at the time of the shooting, a white, red-headed man is seen running from the scene. That's Brady material. That doesn't mean the Hispanic guy didn't do it. It just means that it's something I need to know to explore.
Right.
Maybe that guy did it. Maybe that guy's a witness. Maybe that guy did it with somebody else. That's basically Brady material.
So there is leeway in there, though. They could choose. You don't just get everything that they have. They can choose what they send.
You think it should be that way?
I would think it would. I thought that's the way it was. If you turn over everything you have,
and that's it.
But they don't.
That's it. In discovery, everything we have. We have tapes. We have this. And if you want to use it, you use it. That's not the way it is.
No.
That's interesting.
It's crazy.
Sounds crazy.
I think it's crazy.
Right. But in Frank's case, there was a recording, and what was turned over And it was controlled by, it was almost like, with the glove, if the glove fits and all that, where you say, never let the defendant touch the item.
Right.
When they let OJ try it on, and you can contort your hand, or maybe it was wet. In this case, one of the complaining witnesses had the tape and turned it over, but it wasn't the entire. How long was the entire tape, Frank? I forget.
The entire conversation I had with her was 27 minutes.
But they shortened it down.
Yeah, about 11 minutes long.
Right. So if you take anything out of context, I could do a splice job that'll make you sound like a gangster, probably, or me for that matter. But you have to look at it. That's why in a court of law, if I have a recording between the two of us, and assuming for other reasons I can get it in, if it's not the whole recording, it doesn't get in, because it doesn't show the jury or the trier of fact exactly what went on in that conversation.
But yet they let it in?
Well, it didn't go to trial, but yet that's what was turned over, and that was the impression the district attorney got, that he was threatening somebody. But if you listen to it, it was two people basically going back and forth with each other. Nothing criminal, or even of a violation.
Yeah, and he brings it up how it affected the DA. Well, the judge in the case, actually, I heard him say this to my attorney at the time, because they talk about you like you're not even there when you're a defendant. You don't exist. And the only person who knew anything about the case was me, really, more than anybody. You think somebody would have a conversation with me? No, God forbid. But anyway, the judge said, there were 8 counts against him. He must have done something. He doesn't know anything about the case. Doesn't know anything.
Right. Just because there's
but
so much.
He's tainted already.
Right.
Like, thanks a lot for the fair trial that I'm about to get or not get.
But what do you think that they kept going for this? I mean, I would think that somebody just wants the right person to be. Is it like they did it? They thought they did the right thing. They made a mistake.
I'll tell you what I think.
And then they just kept going with this train wreck and digging themselves deeper and deeper and deeper and covering.
I'll tell you what I think. Originally, Frank was charged with a number of misdemeanors, 8, I believe it was. They gave him 2 vios.
Right.
So in their minds, now I'm a former prosecutor, so I can put my prosecutor's hat on. If I think that Frank is guilty, and let's say I have no reason to believe that the complaining witnesses are lying to me. Now I'm a prosecutor. And I say, you know what? He's a teacher. We don't want to ruin his life. I'm going to give Frank 2 violations, meaning he will not have a criminal record.
You think they're doing the right thing?
Right. And the orders of protection don't matter because you're not going to go near these people anymore. So I'm giving you a break, Frank. And I think, and I don't even know if it was so much his attorney lied. I don't know if he lied, but the mistake was that he sent Frank a letter that said it's going to be a sealed violation. Frank relied on that. Right. You know, a quarterback calls an audible? An audible was called in that courtroom by the prosecutor and said it's not going to be unsealed anymore. Right?
This is after he signed it?
Well, he didn't sign anything. It's all on the record.
Okay.
So it's not you don't sign a stip or anything like that.
Well, here's an interesting component too. As part of the allocution, I'm not an attorney, so correct me, of course, Phil. The judge has to make sure when you plead to something that you know what you're doing. Right. You know what the legal ramifications are.
You.
Yeah. So after I reluctantly think I'm agreeing to one thing, the judge in the case immediately after, we have the transcripts, of course. Immediately after, the judge says, "Now your attorney will explain the legal ramifications." Well, what do you mean?
That's accurate.
What do you mean now? It's done.
Right.
It's already done.
Right.
There was nothing. There was a series. There must have been about a perfect storm of about 100 things in my case for 3 years that just went wrong, one thing after the other.
But once the money, how do you stop it?
But once you take a plea, it's almost, I don't want to say impossible, it is virtually impossible to overturn a plea.
That's why I go back to family court. I tell people really try not to do a stipulation of settlement. You're better off letting the judge make the decision because
not always,
you
though,
can overturn
Gary.
it.
It depends.
Sometimes the pleas warranted,
depends.
but never
That's right.
forced or coerced or you misled.
Like if somebody's holding a kid against you, holding your career against you.
Of course.
Isn't that coerced?
I try cases every day, but there are some cases where a settlement is your best bet. Because think about it.
If the person's guilty, I would say probably.
Yeah, but even let's look at family court for a second. There it's not guilt or innocence.
Right.
It's like what's in the best interest of the child.
Right.
So let's say you have a father that has made some mistakes in his life, really hasn't been there, but he's entitled to visitation. Right? And he says to me, I want custody. I assess the situation, and I'm going to tell him, look, in this particular case, I don't think you're going to get custody. That's my job.
Right.
It's like if you go to the doctor, the doctor's not going to lie to you.
Right.
So I say to him, let me get as much parenting time. We don't like to use visitation anymore. I want to get you as much parenting time as I can. If I can do that, I'm going to try to do that, because if you go to trial, the judge can't give joint custody unless both parties agree, unless they've already done that for a while. And if you go to trial, you lose control of how the case is going to come out.
But if they were offering you Wednesday's dinner and every other weekend in that stipulation, why not go to trial? You can't do worse than that. That's what you're going to get.
It depends. You may not get worse, and in that case, maybe you do go to trial. But let's say they offer you alternate weekends and Tuesday overnight until Wednesday and the alternate Friday, and you might say, you know what, if we go to trial, you might not even get that.
Right. See, I'm thinking more of the order of protection in family court thing, where they go and they get an order of protection, and what they come out and they go, look, it doesn't matter. You don't, like you said, you're not going to see your ex-wife anyway. Just stipulate. It doesn't mean you're saying that you did it. Just sign the order of protection. It doesn't matter
On
if you
consent,
didn't.
it's called.
On consent, you do it, and then all of a sudden you're back in court. And I got an order of protection against him, and now they think that you did it.
And also,
you're a violent person.
And also, if you
That's why I don't
violate
like doing it.
you're looking at a felony.
Well, that's the biggest thing with the trick. I think in the trick in family court is they get the order of protection, you consent to it, then they call on a violation, and then you're really screwed. So that's why I don't like doing it.
Well, look, I had a case a while back, and we talked about this on the show. I had a client who, I didn't do his divorce, but he got an order of protection against him. Then he came to me, and he said, this is what happened. It's interesting. His wife had an order of protection to stay away from the home. She goes to Florida with the parents. The house is empty. So at some point he says, she's not living here anymore. I'm going back into the house. Kid wasn't there, so it wasn't an issue of the child. He goes into the house. He's there for a couple of months. At one point, the wife comes back with the parents. She wants to move back in. Doesn't let him know because there's an order of protection. He's there. He sees her pull in. He grabs a few items, and he leaves. And that should have been the end of it. You know what she did? She called the police. He got arrested. We went to trial, and we won.
Okay, good. That's not always that you would win, though.
Well, the last two ones, I haven't lost any of those. Because sometimes, even if it's a technical violation, because the order of protection said, stay away from a home at, so it had the address.
Right.
But even when they called the sheriff, the assistant deputy sheriff that served him, even that person didn't think it was a big deal because they didn't escort him out of there. They left.
Right.
Because normally they say, we're going to wait, you got to go,
Right.
when he was served. So that just shows you that jurors do listen to the facts, and sometimes even if it's a technical violation that said stay away from the house at 22 Jones Street, he technically went back, he shouldn't have been there, but she wasn't there, and it came out in evidence in the trial.
So going back to Frank's case, you taking him back, he was really at the bottom, you started to resurrect him, and he's got some hope, and you've got him back in the game, I guess, per se.
We're trying.
It seems like everything's stacked against you, though. Nobody really wants you to win because you're making everybody look bad.
Right.
Are you feeling the pressure as an attorney?
No.
Not at all. That's interesting.
I do what I have to do.
I resent the fact. It's true what Phil says. I resent the fact that it's impossible to bring a case you pled to back when the statute is clear. There are statutes for a reason. You're allowed to. You need one reason, good reason, ineffective counsel, whatever it might be. So Brady materials withheld.
You had more than one.
Yeah, I got about.
Yes.
We need about 16 in our motion, and I take offense to, even though he's right. It's not. I don't take offense to Phil saying it, but. It is almost impossible, but it shouldn't be. There's a rule that says you can. Well, damn it, courts, there's a rule, and we have it nailed down. Bring it back, but they can't. Because going back to what you said before, they dug themselves into a real hole. When you arrest somebody, then you call him a terrorist on the news, then he loses his job and loses everything. The longer it went, the more they dug themselves into a hole. And then when they found out who the real criminal was, they said, man, we really screwed this guy.
And they still never went after the real violators for making false reports.
Because to them, the case is closed. He took a plea. That's it.
Oh, so
and they don't want anything to do with this case.
And I guess if they did go after her, then she would say, how can you? He's already pleaded guilty.
If this case ever comes back, a lot of people are in trouble, Gary. A lot of people.
And in the motion, I've even gone as far as to say, give him his day in court. Right. There's an expression, be careful what you wish for. And I told Frank that early on. I said, be careful what you wish for, because if this case comes back, he's looking at 8 potential misdemeanors.
Right, because you're going back to square one.
And they're not going to cut me any deals. Let me tell you right
yeah, I don't think they are.
I don't think I can get you an ACOD. All right?
Yeah. But that says a lot to me. Doesn't that say a lot that he's willing to take the risk to clear his name?
He understands the risk and he's willing to take it. Because he believes in his case, and so do I.
And in the motion, let me tell you something. You're talking about Phil trying to win friends over and whatnot, but I'm going to say it. I mean, it's just secretive right now, but Phil's about to drop a bomb. Like we got a motion going on. I don't even know if he wants me to say this, but whatever.
It's too late.
He yelled at me later. He's about to drop a bomb. You want to talk about saying some real, we got a serious motion going forward.
But that's this is really, especially on Long Island, it is very hard to get an attorney. I mean, I don't know how you guys hooked up, but it is very hard.
Tell him.
Yeah, well, I was down and out.
I know, because I have people that said, hey, get me an attorney.
Yeah.
Here's black and white proof. Yeah. And nobody touches it.
Especially my case. And so 19 people I had to save enough money first to retain an attorney. I reached out to 19 people. Phil got back to me that morning.
19 attorneys you reached out
Yeah,
to.
3 people got back to me. One wasn't even equipped. It wasn't his style. One tried to rape me with money like they all do. And no, and Phil's working with me with money too, by the way. Like, I don't want to tell
He
everybody.
does my lawn.
Yeah. So, he reached out to me, and I met him, and he was a normal person. As you can see, how many people have with their attorney on radio shows together. He was a normal guy. And I jokingly say to Phil, I hate attorneys, and I say, Phil, I distrust you the
did say
least.
that.
I distrust you the least, I tell him. But he's a great guy. But when I'm talking to him, and Phil's like, I did Google your name, and I think he thought I was nuts. He probably still thinks I'm nuts. But walking away, he went inside. I don't know what he went to do. And I told him this recently, and I never told him before. As he walked away, under his breath, he said to himself, he goes, I hate injustice. And when I heard him say that, there was something about it where he was in a fight. And he does. He fights. He's a legit guy, and he's not condescending. I know how a lot of attorneys get. I'll say it. I know Phil can't say it. They're condescending. They talk down to you. They're arrogant. He's a normal guy, and you can joke around with him. And
If you got a minute,
and
I
he
got
fights.
a very quick story. I represented a woman in a divorce case in Nassau County. She got railroaded by the judge. In fact, I forget the guy's name. He used to sit as a chief judge. He's no longer in Nassau County. He basically got the boot. No attorney, and she had another attorney. I was coming into the case, and I knew there was an injustice.
Mm-hmm.
No other Nassau attorney would take the case.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
You know what happened? I ended up, and I don't know if this is the only case of its kind in Nassau County, I actually got to cross-examine or call as a witness the sitting judge.
Really?
I actually did. And in
I'm
fact,
surprised they didn't appeal. I can hear the objections going right there.
I actually got to, because my client, the attorney got off the case, so she was standing there with no attorney. She was in tears. I also called the judge's law clerk, who admitted that a court officer had to get a tissue for my client because she was crying. And this is an allocution. Right. So I got to Judge Robb. I'll say the name. It was Judge Robb. I got to cross-examine him. I called him as a witness, actually, so it was kind of like calling a hostile witness.
Right.
This lady could not get an attorney in Nassau County. Nobody wanted to touch the case. I said, what are they going to do, kill me? Right. I'm going to take the case, which I did, and we got a good result.
Wow, that's great.
Gary, the problem in my case, make no mistake, they don't have any respect or regards for the woman who did this, okay? But they will protect her to the end, and that's why they are reluctant to take my case back.
Themselves.
Right, because once she goes down, no pun intended, they're all going to go down.
Right.
So that's what the issue
Well,
is.
we're all following your show. We're going to keep doing follow-ups. We're not going to let, because I said this is an injustice, and it's really got to stop. And thank God you found Phil Jusino, who will stand up for injustice, because there's not a lot of people standing on principle. Exactly, right. And anybody could look you up, and if they've been wrong, they should definitely at least speak with you.
Come in and speak to me.
Great. I'm Gary Jacobs, and thank you for joining us on Long Island Backstory.
I think every single person who receives a red light camera ticket should fight their ticket. Why? Because it's nothing but a cash grab and a cash cow.
We've all been told that it's all about safety and there's no quotas. You prove that it's got nothing to do with safety and it is quotas.
Red light cameras are nothing more than a tax, plain and simple. Don't let anybody ever tell you any different.
The red light cameras are a fraud.
Long Island Backstory. Chief Correspondent Gary Jacobs is uncovering the truth on Long Island. The family court system. Red light cameras. Corruption in local politics. The heroin epidemic. Corrupt judges. At Long Island Backstory, we uncover the truth that the Cablevision news monopoly won't dare touch. We uncover the details you won't see on News 12 or in Newsday. We are local independent media at its best. Long Island Backstory, available on Public Access TV and on YouTube.